This is Cassandra Williamson with the Midday Muster. How are you? We are, my daughter on I-20, as Sandra calls it U-20. It's 40. But anyway, here we are on I-20. We're in Texas. We're only about 4 or 5 miles in, maybe, something like that, just crossed out of Shreveport. Uh, so we're headed down to Killeen, Texas. We're going to be down there for a couple of days. My granddaughter's graduating from high school, so we wanted to come down for that. So I left the hollers of Kentucky up there in Harding and Pike County, and we're headed down to Killeen. I went down to Tuscaloosa yesterday or last night, and my daughter's with me. She's right there, right over there. So anyway, so this is the Midday Muster. I'm trying to think of some stuff that we need to be talking about, but there's so much of it, it's hard to get centered on one particular topic. But I will do this. I will say this. This past Saturday night, 17th of May, on the big weekend show on Fox News, they said exactly how far they want to go going after transgender Americans. And they made it very, they were talking about a story that about the last 15 minutes of their show. They're starting about a story of a transgender person who was in a nursing home in New Hampshire. And this is a transgender elder. They said you have transgender elders in these nursing homes or retirement homes, stuff like that. So the four anchors, the co-hosts on the show, were actually about that. And they called this immoral and unethical. That just gets all over me. These are people we're talking about are people my age and up, okay? I just turned 66. I put myself in the order list, but there's a lot more older people who are elders, really seriously elders in the community. And I know these people, many of them, and they're good people. They just want to live. They want to be, they want to go to their nursing home or retirement home and not be bothered by anyone. But yet, Fox, on the big weekend show, you shouldn't be there around ordinary people. I'm saying, what the crap? Oh my God. Oh my Lord, it's just craziness, okay? And then you get to realizing some of the things that are actually just in a broad way within this community, but I mean within the community that wants to get rid of, put us back in the closet under the floorboard, kind of get rid of us. Always had this goal in mind. They don't want us in public at all, period. And that goes for all LGBT and T people in the country. They've all wanted it for 75 years. They've been working towards this. You've got conservative leaders saying we need to bring back the mental institutions and stuff like that. And you have President Trump and the NIH and HHS Secretary Kennedy up there looking into ways to this right now to bring back those mental institutions. There are people, a vast majority of them, who are over in the ditch, and they actually believe that all the psychologists out there who professionally train just wacko people. And the reason they want that, they do that is because they don't trust them to get rid of the LGBT people. So they think they're the only ones who can, and the only way to do it is put them in mental institutions. And you mark my words on that one. They are going to go after LGBT people, calling them mentally unfit to do anything to be in society at all. And they will attempt to lock a bunch of us up. You might think that's hyperbole, but by this time, I've been telling people what's coming for the past 3 years. 2 or 3. And I haven't been wrong. And I'm trying to give you a warning about this. To get prepared, you need to be thinking of what you need to do to take care of yourself, protect you and your families, your friends, your communities. Thinking ahead and start planning it out. And then the other big part of this whole thing is that so many in this community Well, a handful of this community gain the spotlight for the bad, crazy, stupid things they do, that it brings the whole light. And the people they're talking to on Fox News, none of us. They don't talk to any of the psychologists, doctors, or anybody like that who actually who know what they're talking about. They're not talking to any one of those. They are absolutely just going. They're sticking within their echo chamber, staying there. They're saying these are the only ones who matter. These are the only ones whose voice we will listen to, and any other voice that tries to get into it, well, no, the gatekeepers out there who are going, nope, we don't want you in this community. We don't want you to come and talk to anyone. We don't want to hear your stories and anything like that. So they are working there to do everything they can to shove us back into a closet underneath the floorboard. And well, that's just not going to happen. Many of us are going to be fighting along the way. We're not going to sit here and wait for all that crap to hit. Okay, we know what's coming. You're not taking steps to protect yourselves, as well, then you got your head stuck in the sand. A lot of people in this community live within their silo and don't pay a bit of attention to anyone outside it. The other silos do the same thing. The right silo, the left silo, the libertarian silo, they all stick within there and they gatekeep the entire thing. They don't let other voices they don't want to hear, and they don't let other voices, don't let out a change or deviation from the plan that they have. And you can see that, you know that, we all know that, okay? We know what's going on. So, it gets under my skin a lot, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to stand up to all this stuff and actually help. There are some cases where we rebel legally and then the courts because it's just so blatantly wrong that we're set there. I mean, oh, huh. Well, wherever that noise is coming from, where is that coming from? Huh. Anyway, there's music. I don't know what it is. So, well, we have a lot to do, folks, and we've got a lot to think about and plan ahead for. I'm surrounded by people who understand, who care, who are respectful for the most part. I live in Eastern Kentucky, and I don't have the issues that a lot of people would think that I would have there. It's just not there. I go out in the community. I go respectfully. I don't go out there and just show out, treat people decently, and that's what I get back everywhere, no matter where. That's kind of weird, huh? It can be done, but you don't want to be somebody who is dressed in drag going out reading to kids somewhere. Never want to make that very clear. But that was the way people to vote for them. Whenever stuff like that happened, it just riled up a whole bunch of people because the narrative got spread. And so we can't do anything about that. That's done and over with. You're stuck with it. You can't do the narrative that's already out there, not without a massive investment of money and time and effort over a long period of time, because it's there. It's already been controlled by somebody else. You've lost it. You've lost that narrative. Get away from whatever it is that they're doing and stay away from it. If you went through male puberty, you have no business being on a sports team. You do have certain statistical advantages, no matter how much muscle mass you may have lost because of if you're on hormones or whatever. And I know that that's true, and the science is actually supportive of that statement. The science backs it up, unless you're in Robert's HHS and NIH now, where they're putting out these reports that say, we got to work on this gender dysphoria among adolescents. Never been the issue. And then they based that whole study on another study out of the UK called the Cass Review. And that thing was just full of holes, all kinds. It was craziness. And then the report that H put out, still don't know who the authors are of that thing. And not one of them had any experience with transgender people. But you know why? Because they don't want to give us any semblance of education or knowledge about our own. They don't want to give us that opportunity to tell them what we know because they think they know better for us than we do. And that's what's coming, more of it. So, and I don't know what road are we on. We're going down towards 43. Are now in Texas.
Yeah. It took me this way. I don't know.
Okay. No, that's fine. So that's my daughter you heard over there.
Yes.
Hello. So she gets to listen to me do this show today on the Midday Muster. Usually I'm a little bit more organized, but still off the cuff. I just ramble on about all kinds of stuff.
That's okay.
A lot of people know that. You know, I just take off on a topic.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this too, and this is probably going to be kind of surprising. Well, no, most of you know me by now. You've been listening since the early part of the year. And you've heard me say that I'm going to be calling those in our community out. I'll call them out if they do wrong. If they do something that's stupid, I'll call out the right side and the left side and the in-between sides. Do something stupid, I'll call it out. And I typically will not hold back on ignoring names. If you're doing something crazy, I'll point it out. I absolutely will.
No matter who you are.
No matter. That's right. That's right. So we know that. And we also know, many of you know this too, if you've been patient, is that I am not going to put myself into some ideological box and say that I'm all right, even though I tend to the left a lot, but I've also got a lot of conservative views too. For instance, some of the stuff Trump is doing, I agree with. People are going, oh, really? I said, yeah, really, I do. The tariffs, for one, designed a level playing field. For so long, for 7 years after World War II, many of these countries were charging us at a higher rate than we were charging them. But there was a reason for it. The rationale was that they needed to build their economic base, so they were protecting their own industries. But at some point, when there's been a level of parity between the different economies around the world, then those tariffs could have been gradually relieved. Instead, they've stayed in place, and it's being abused. Process that drives the United States, and we've been the ones helping out the whole world, allowing their economies to rise by boycotting us, but putting tariffs on our products into their countries. That's what Alexander Hamilton was all about, by the way. He supported the tariff things for the United States because he knew as a fledgling young new nation we needed to build an industrial base. So he put high things coming into the country in order to encourage growth, economic growth in our own nation. And those things work over time. It takes patience. Jefferson hated them though. Jefferson hated manufacturing until he became president. Then he loved it. So anyway, there's a lot of stuff that I agree with what Trump's doing. For instance, I do know there are illegals in this country who are doing bad things and they ought to be out of the country. I really don't care about this part of it. Me personally. So, yeah, if they're here, we don't want to take care of them. Send them back to where they came from. If somebody else is in this country and they haven't done something wrong other than crossing the border illegally, that requires a different level, a different approach to it. Approach entirely.
Or if you're coming to the country, you didn't even have the choice because you were a child.
Yeah, that's crazy.
They're pretty much American.
Yeah, they were They went to school here. They learned everything here. They're all
Your
they may
parents
have been
brought you in when you were 2.
right. And so, what do you do with that? You have to have some nuance in all this stuff. It can't be just black and white. You've got to be able to do the shades of gray, like with the kid, like George was saying, who came in the country whenever they were young and had no clue where they were going really, and they were just there because the parents were taking them there. And that do with that, well, you have to evaluate that. If they did something wrong, if their parents did something wrong, and the child is an adult now, leave them alone. They're here. Many of them have served in our country's military, by the way. They've served our nation. So you can't it's wrong, really and ethically wrong, to go say, if you and your parents or your people or whoever came to the country illegally, kick you all out. No, because that just is, that's placement theory thing being actively followed. That's just somebody fearful of foreigners. Even though I know somebody like Stephen, they're all accepting, mostly, especially Melania, and of J.D. Bowman's wife. You know who Bowman is? It's actually the real name for the vice president. He wasn't born. He was born Bowman. He didn't like that name. He went through different names in college before he finally settled on Lance. Sound familiar, huh? Okay, yeah, sure. All right. But anyway, so a lot of stuff going on around here. We are on, like I said, go Highway 43, going down through Texas, and it's supposed to be the quickest route back or down to Austin, Texas, to where my son flies in later. Let me see. Anything else you want to know about? I don't see any of the comments. I'm using my iPhone right now to do the streaming, and it took me a minute to get all this kind of set up and moved. But come back later this evening. We'll try it again, okay? Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye-bye.